Welcome. Today we're exploring a really interesting corner of Wisconsin, the Mill Bluff area. We've got several sources lined up, some bedrock geology info, notes from historical societies, and even a county recreation plan.
Right. And the idea is to sort of weave these together.
Exactly. To see what story emerges about this place, particularly the Mill Bluff Trail, and how it fits into the bigger picture these documents paint.
It's fascinating how you can take different kinds of records like these and focus them on one spot. You get, well, multiple dimensions of understanding.
Absolutely. So let's start right there on the ground with the Mill Bluff Nature Trail. The Monroe County Outdoor Recreation Plan gives us the basics.
Okay, so the plan tells us where it starts, far end of the East Picnic area.
And it's designed for hikers, specifically a self-guiding trail.
Right, which usually means there are markers or maybe a brochure explaining things along the way.
Exactly. The plan says it's set up so hikers can learn about the, wildlife, trees, wildflowers, and the geology, which is obviously key here.
And it's not a long trek either. What was it?
Just 0.4 miles, so pretty accessible in that sense.
And speaking of accessible, the plan does mention that, doesn't it? That part of the trail is designed for people with disabilities.
Yes, it explicitly notes that, which seems like an important detail reflecting, modern park planning.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
good to see that called out.
One little specific rule mentioned in the plan for this trail, no pets allowed.
Ah, okay. Good to know if you're planning a visit with a dog. Nature trails sometimes have those restrictions to protect wildlife or fragile environments.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned the geology.
Yes, the Rex plan actually points to a historical marker on the trail that talks about the geology.
And that's our bridge to the bigger geological story, right?
Right.
From the bedrock geology of Wisconsin source.
Precisely. That source gives us the deep time context. We're talking millions of years shaping this landscape. Rain, wind, rivers.
And glaciers. Can't forget the glaciers.
Oh, definitely not. So stepping way back, geologically speaking, into the Phanerozoic eon, particularly the Paleozoic era, Wisconsin looked very different.
Underwater, mostly.
Intermittently, yes. Ancient seas covered the area multiple times, and when they did, they left sediments.
Okay, so like sand, mud.
Exactly. During the Cambrian period, those sediments became sandstone and shale. Later in the Ordovician, conditions favored calcium carbonate deposits, which turned into dolomite, that harder rock layer.
So you get these layers building up, sandstone, shale, then dolomite on top.
But it wasn't continuous deposition. Sometimes the land was above sea level, and erosion would kick in, washing some material away.
Ah, so it's not a perfectly complete record.
Not at all. The geology source points out a significant gap. After the Devonian period, we don't find younger Paleozoic rocks here.
Why not?
Well, it's hard to say for sure. Maybe they were deposited but then completely eroded away, or perhaps they were never deposited in this specific area. And the whole Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs, seems to have left almost no bedrock trace in Wisconsin. Maybe some pebbles, the source suggests, but that's it.
Wow, so a huge chunk of time is just missing from the rock layers.
Missing or unrecorded here, yeah. Then we jump forward to the last million years or so, the Pleistocene, the Ice Age.
Right, the glaciers again, big impact.
Huge. Massive ice sheets, scouring the land, carving bedrock, and then dumping vast amounts of sand, gravel, silt, what we call glacial drift as they melted.
They really reshaped the landscape, didn't they? Smoothing hills, filling valleys.
Across most of the state, yes. And this is crucial for Mill Bluff, the southwestern part of Wisconsin, this driftless area.
It wasn't covered by the last big glaciers.
Largely escaped the most recent ice sheets. Mill Bluff is right near the edge of that glaciated territory.
So how does that explain the bluff itself? Why is it standing there?
It comes back to those rock layers. You've got that hard, resistant dolomite layer sitting on top of the softer sandstone and shale.
Okay.
As erosion happened over millions of years, and especially as the glaciers approached and meltwater flowed, the softer surrounding rock was worn away much faster. But the dolomite acted like a protective cap.
Ah, like a little roof, protecting the rock underneath.
Exactly. So the areas capped with dolomite resisted erosion much better, leaving these isolated mounds, these bluffs or buttes, standing high above the surrounding, more easily eroded terrain. It's a classic example of what geologists call differential erosion.
So the bluff is there because of the rock type and because the glaciers didn't just scrape it flat.
Precisely. It's a remnant of an older landscape.
Okay, that makes sense. Shifting gears from, millions of years to something much more recent. There's a human element built right onto the bluff, isn't there? Steps.
Yes, the 223 stone steps. Quite a feature.
Built by.
The Work Progress Administration, the WPA, back in the mid-1930s during the Great Depression.
Ah, one of those New Deal projects putting people to work on public infrastructure.
Exactly. Building roads, parks, post offices, and stone steps up bluffs like this one. They lead to an observation deck on the north side.
Now, how does this fit into the historical context from our other sources? We have notes mentioning the Wisconsin Historical Society being active around this time.
Right. There was a definite interest in state heritage. The sources mention the society gearing up for the state centennial in '48, launching biographical series.
And local historical societies were busy too. Museums, restorations.
Yes, expanding museums, fixing up old logging camps, house museums opening. The State Historical Society was publishing its magazine. There was a lot of activity focused on history and preservation,
And one source even brings up the question of whether geology is history, in a way.
which is a fascinating thought. Should history just be about human actions, or does the story of the land itself count?
And the WPA steps seem to embody that connection perfectly. It's a human artifact from a specific historical program.
Built directly onto a geological feature that tells a story millions of years old, it physically links that human effort to the deep history of the place.
A very tangible link.
It really is. It shows a kind of appreciation for the landscape itself as historically significant.
So bringing it back to the present day, how is Mill Bluff viewed in terms of recreation and management? That county plan again.
Well, the plan clearly sees outdoor recreation as important. For people's health, sure, but also for the economy attracting visitors.
And Mill Bluff is part of that picture. The plan looks at what facilities the county has and what it needs,
Right. And we already mentioned the accessibility piece of the nature trail.
which ties into a broader theme in the plan, doesn't it? About improving accessibility.
Yes, definitely. The plan states policies about actively looking for ways to increase handicap accessible trails, parking, promoting the whole county as accessible.
It mentions specific examples, too, like parts of the Elroy Sparta Trail and another park, McMullen Park.
So the accessible feature at Mill Bluff isn't just a one-off. It fits into a wider county strategy.
The plan also touches on other recreational uses in the county, like hunting and trapping in the county forests.
Regulated hunting and trapping are mentioned for the county lands, mostly oak, white pine, red pine forests.
And it notes other state facilities nearby, like the Elroy Sparta State Trail.
Right, the famous bike trail on the old railroad bed. So Mill Bluff isn't an island. It's part of this network of state and county recreational lands.
Okay, so let's recap what we've pulled together from these different sources. We started with the specifics of the Mill Bluff Nature Trail.
Yeah, short, 0.4 miles, self-guiding, educational focus on nature and geology, partly accessible,
Oh.
and no pets.
Then we zoomed way out to the geology. Ancient seas, layers of rock, that hard dolomite cap.
And the key role of the glaciers, or rather the lack of glaciation right there, leaving the bluffs standing as this isolated remnant.
Then we added the human layer, the WPA steps from the 1930s. A piece of Depression-era history built right into the ancient rock.
Tied into that broader context of growing historical awareness and preservation efforts in Wisconsin at the time.
And finally, we saw how the bluff and trail fit into today's picture part of Monroe County's recreation plan, valued for health and tourism, with that specific focus on improving accessibility.
It really shows how many layers geological, historical, modern planning coexist in one specific place.
It's quite something, isn't it? A short trail that connects you across such vast timescales. From the forces that shaped the rock millions of years ago, to a government work project less than a century old, to ongoing efforts to make sure everyone can experience these places. It makes you think, what does it mean for us to interact so directly, building steps onto a landscape formed by processes almost beyond comprehension, just to get a better view?